Welcome to a Song of Ice and Fire Symposium. My name is Nav.
And I'm Harmit.
And this is a Game of Thrones, Chapter 12, Eddard. In this chapter, Ned and Robert try to relive their glory days. Welcome to the podcast, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We are back. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
I remembered, I was like, wait, you asked me about the chapter after.
Okay, well, you can just talk about it. Yeah, what did you think of the chapter?
Well, with this chapter, there was a lot of me flipping to the map and flipping to the appendix, and I'm worried that when I do, now what I did was I put sticky notes in because I kept almost spoiling myself by like flipping to the wrong page because I'd be like trying to just flip straight and then I'd be like maybe and then I was like maybe I shouldn't
I put those sticky notes in there for you so you could do that.
But the sticky notes aren't big enough for me to just be like
okay, all right, whatever. Do what you need to do. Don't spoil yourself, okay?
Okay, sounds good. But there was a lot of flipping.
Okay, but you didn't see anything you shouldn't have seen?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. And then it took me like half of the chapter to remember who Ser Jorah was because I didn't want to go back and like reread it and like try to remember again because I was sitting there and I was like, I know who this is. Like, this is someone who we've like spoken to, but I literally couldn't remember like who specifically it was.
We just read this like one week ago.
I know, but I was sitting there and I was like, I don't know. And then I was reading and it was part where we weren't talking about him anymore, and then I was like, oh.
Wait until you learn what Jorah's dad's name is. I won't say it, but just wait, okay?
Robert John?
Probably. The way this book is set up. Okay, so you want to do a quick summary of what they talk about? Because literally it is just them talking. That is the whole plot of this chapter.
We've had quite a few of those.
Yeah. It's kind of exposition-y, but let's get started. Yes. Okay, so I'll give you 60 minutes.
Huh?
No, wait, not minutes. 60 seconds.
I was like, I'll just read the chapter then.
Yeah. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, we start the chapter, and Robert's like, Ned, wake up. And then he kind of takes them, and they go riding on their horses, and they're like, going on this really exhilarating ride, and then they're doing this so they can like get away from everyone just so nobody hears them talking, and I'm like, oh no, what's going on? So then they finally get to like a safe spot, I guess, and they're kind of talking about just stupid stuff for the first half of the chapter, and I'm just not going to get into that. And then eventually Robert's like, oh, like we got this little letter, and Ned's like, oh my god. And then we find out about Ser Jorah and his new allegiance, and we find out that they know everything that we know at this point, you know? About like Dany and like what's going on, and the king's like, oh my god, I should have had them slain beforehand, and Ned's like, don't you think that's a little cruel? And we just kind of see them disagree about literally and everything and anything, and I'm kind of worried about their friendship now. Anyway, that's the premise.
Okay, that was a minute. All right, yeah, you got in some parts, whatever. Moving on. I'm gonna stop hoping much from these summaries of yours. I'm kidding. Okay, all right, so why don't you start at the beginning of the chapter and take us through?
Okay. So,
from Ned waking up and it's not even dawn.
Yeah, so Robert comes in, he's like, wake up, I need to talk to you, and then Robert's, Ned, sorry, I keep confusing them for some reason, Ned's like, okay, come in, let's, talk, and he's like, no, there's too many ears at this camp.
Yeah.
And at this point, I was like, what does he have to talk to me about? So, they get on their horses, they start trotting, just out like, keep in mind, Ned has literally just woken up. They're just kind of trotting, and then Robert starts going faster and faster and faster. And from what we know from Robert, he's not the type to, like, move. Do you know what I mean? He seems like he lives a pretty sedentary lifestyle. Or at least before this, that's what I thought.
He seems like an athlete who was, like, really active, but then, like, really just stopped exercising.
That's what But then at this point I was like, oh, Ned's struggling to keep up. Which was interesting. But anyway, so they're riding, and then they kind of, eventually, after a long time, Robert kind of eases, and they stop.
Oh wait, let's clear this up. So Ned, also known as Eddard Stark, is the Lord of Winterfell, and Robert Baratheon is the king, okay?
No, I know that, but I just keep saying
Ned I know.
When I'm thinking
I'm just being a really bad friend. Okay, go on.
Okay, so, you know, we finally start the conversation. So Robert kind of decides to be kind of a prick, and he's just kind of like, oh my god, remember it's like they're reminiscing about, like, high school or something. They're like, remember when we used to just go out and get all the girls, you know, like, that's pretty much his premise.
Yeah, wait,
and then he's like,
the reason he brings it up is because he's tired of, like, the slow crawl towards King's Landing. They're, like, 2-story wheelhouse keeps breaking down, and they have to, like, camp every night, and all he wants to do is just, like, ride on out and, you know, meet girls and then be knights on the go or whatever. And Ned's like, oh, you know, we have responsibilities now, we're not the boys we were. And then Robert, I love this, he says, you were never the boy you were.
I enjoyed that.
Because Ned's always been serious. Oh, I love it.
That's so funny. I love that. But
meeting girls like we used to.
Meeting girls like we used to, and then they're kind of talking about that. I'm trying to catch my thoughts again. And then he's like, oh yeah, like you've always been serious, but oh my god, that one time you weren't. What was your bastard's mom's name? At this point, Ned's like, shut up.
Yeah.
But like, you know.
But he guesses, he's like, oh, was her name Becca? Was it Aaliyah? Was it
like,
Meryl?
Wait, that was my girls.
Those names have nothing in common.
I know. And then he's like, oh wait, those were all my girls. My bad. Yeah. And I'm like, bruh, this kid. But,
her name, do you remember what it actually was?
I have no idea.
Willa.
Willa. I mean, insignificant right now.
I made you guess on that in a game of Who or What, and you were like, oh, it's Will's sister.
Wait, really?
Yeah, that's what you said. You already forgotten? Wow.
You think I remember anything? We know this. I don't remember anything after, like, if I just, you know, pass upon it.
But she was the one who made Ned Stark forget his honor, so...
That is interesting. I wonder
quite an accomplishment. Yeah.
Yes, that's interesting. That's cool. But then Ned's like, don't talk about it. I regret it. Stop. And then
and
he's like,
Robert,
okay.
Robert, he doesn't say okay. He says, at times you're so prickly, you ought to take the hedgehog as your sigil. Oh, yes. Full of such funny. I enjoyed
that line. I enjoyed that line. I was like, dang.
I don't like Robert's personality. Like, he's not my favorite person, but he has some good lines, okay?
Yes, that's very true. Just within this one chapter, he says so many things, and you're like, haha. But yeah, they're talking about that, and then he's finally like, okay, well, didn't bring you out here to talk about girls. And then, so he gives him a letter, and he kind of reads it, and he's like, oh my god, what?
Wait, but do you remember who acquired this letter for him?
The Varys.
Yeah.
Sir Varys? Sir Varys, yes.
I don't know. It's either it's pronounced either Varys or Varys. I like Varys just because it sounds fancier. Varys the eunuch, who is the king's master of whisperers.
Which is interesting.
Yeah. And Ned is careful to mention that he serves Robert now as he once served Aerys Targaryen. So he's been part of the regime for a long time.
Yes, he is good at what he does. So he's compiled a lot of information that I was like, obviously it makes sense, like, Robert's the king, you know, like, he's supposed to know everything, but it still, like, completely shocked me that, you know, his like, I don't know why it shocked me. Like, if you think about it, you're like, yeah, duh, he has connections everywhere. He's literally the king. But I don't know, when they started mentioning, like, Daenerys within the letter, and, like, Daenerys, they were like, oh, Daenerys is married to a Dothraki now. Oh my god. The, what did they call, what's his name? Oh, Beggar King. When they mentioned all that, those little things, I was like, oh. And then I was kind of like, why am I acting dumb? Of course he knows. He's the king, like, you know?
At least Varys knows, and knows how he's the master whisperer, so he has whisperers all over the world. One of whom is Jorah Mormont, who Ned does not have fond feelings towards. So Ned, he doesn't like him because Jorah was under his, he was his liege lord, and Jorah sold some poachers to a Tyroshi slaver or something. And by the time Ned, got over to Bear Island, that's where Jorah's from, he had escaped justice and ice, he says. So he was going over there to chop off his head. But Robert's like, Varys tells me that spies are more useful than corpses. So now he's a spy for them. Yeah. But yeah, he wants to be, pardoned so that he can come back. And that's why he's doing all this spying. Ned's not a fan.
Which is interesting, because we know that, because I remember even last chapter I was like, he's got to have some sort of reason to just, like, introduce himself to them and be like, hey guys, I'm here to help you. Like, you don't just do that in this world. So that's interesting.
So now do we know where his motivations lie?
Yes, which is good. I feel like I can trust him a little bit more.
Oh, can you? He's on Robert's side, but he's not on Dany's side. Do you not like Dany?
I just feel, it's not like, oh, I can trust him, like someone I'd tell my secrets to, but it's like, I know who you are type of trust,
Right, okay.
I don't mean like...
So whenever he makes a move, you know why he's doing it, so you're not, like, left out and they're like, I don't know why he's doing anything.
Yeah, it's not like, hey, Dany, trust him. Like, it's more of just like, okay, I know I know what's going on type thing. Okay. But, so we find out about Jorah, we find out that they know about Dany's wedding.
And Robert is like, we gotta kill this girl. Like, now.
And Ned's like,
she's a
child.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, this brings up memories of Robert's rebellion.
Yes.
So I'll just
find out a lot here.
Yeah, there's a lot of...
Can you go through it? Because there's so much.
Yes, I was just gonna do that. Huh.
Yeah.
You just read my mind. Okay, so I don't have it written down, but from what I remember, from what we learn in this chapter.
Yeah.
So Robert killed Rhaegar to avenge Lyanna at the Trident, but he was hurt, so he stayed back a bit while Ned went on to King's Landing to, sack the city and, claim the throne or whatever.
But and that was the final straw of like the whole rebellion.
Basically, yeah. Like if you have the capital, you have the country, basically. Yeah. So, when he got to King's Landing, he found that the Lannisters had already taken it over, and he found Lannister banners everywhere, and when he walked into the throne room, the old king was lying dead on the floor, and Jaime Lannister was sitting up on the throne, all like, just keeping it warm,
Yeah.
And eventually, Robert makes his way up there, and Tywin Lannister, Jaime's dad, presents the bodies of Rhaegar's wife and children to Robert as a token of loyalty or whatever. Yeah. And, Ned's like, this is murder. This is terrible. You should not accept this, or, But, Robert's more about, they were Targaryens. Who cares? So they fight. And Ned leaves in a huff to fight the very last battle of the war or whatever. We don't know what that was, but... at some point after that, Lyanna dies, which eventually brings them back together, just the shared grief of that loss. And that is what we learned.
Yes. Yeah. Synopsis. Yeah, that... I'm like...
Oh, also we learned that Lyanna was raped by Rhaegar, which is why he hates them so much, the Targaryens. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's That's a lot of information.
Mm-hmm.
Before we literally knew nothing. All we knew was Ned being like, they didn't pledge their allegiance until they had to. I don't trust them. Like, that's all we knew. And now we're like, okay.
Not only did they, like, wait until the last second, but when they were, you know, pledging allegiance, they did it in a very murderous way. Like, there's details about this. Like, they talk about how the little girl, Rhaenys Targaryen, she was, like, hiding under her bed when they dragged her to kill her.
Yeah.
And then the little baby was just, like, they smashed his head against the wall. Like, ugh, why?
Yeah. Like, that's just so wasteful. Like, you guys have already won, you know?
Well,
like,
yeah, the idea is that you don't want anybody contesting your right to the throne, right? Like now, how Viserys styles himself the king of the Seven Kingdoms. Similarly, people would want to, if they wanted Targaryens on the throne, they would support those kids. I get it. I don't get it. I don't agree with it, but I would see why they would want those kids killed or whatever. But it's just so brutal the way it was done. That tells you a lot about Tywin Lannister, and, you know, since he's the one who apparently orchestrated all that, so yep.
Oh, okay, so this is from Ned's perspective. We're seeing, like, obviously this is Ned's chapter. So, I don't know, I'm just thinking, because Ned doesn't like the Lannisters. And also, if Lyanna was alive, she would be Cersei, right?
She would be the queen. Yeah,
like, she would be the queen. She wouldn't,
she would be married to Robert.
She would be the queen. Yeah. She would be married to Robert. And, I don't know, I'm just, like, obviously, I right now, I kind of am more on Ned's side than, like, let's say, like, the Lannister side.
I get the feeling that Ned doesn't like the Lannisters because of the events that he explained in this chapter.
I get that. But I also feel like it's not, like, just that, you know?
Okay.
Because, obviously, I think that that's enough to hate someone, yes.
Oh, so you think like, that Cersei took his sister's place, so that's why he's angry.
I'm not saying that's why he's angry. I'm just saying that's just another layer.
Yeah, but I think Robert married Cersei after Lyanna was dead. Not, like, instead of her.
I know, because he cared about Lyanna. I know that. But I'm just saying, it's just another one of those things where it's like, it's just like, he already hates the Lannisters, he doesn't like what they stand for, he doesn't like who they are, and now one of them is in his sister's place. So it's not gonna fuel positive emotions to, like, do you know what I'm saying? It's just more hostility.
I get it, but I think, like, even if the sister thing wasn't there and it was just based on, you know, them being murderers of little children.
Oh, no, yeah, of course.
I think
of course, I'm just saying, it's an added thing. It's not, like, part of his, it's not what he defines as the problem, but it's just another layer of, like, okay, I hate all of this, and now this thing, and now this, like, do you know, it just adds to the reason that they're probably never gonna, like each other.
Yeah, okay, I guess.
But,
and we know Cersei is afraid of, you know, like, being replaced by a Lyanna lookalike, so she's not a fan of the Starks because of such reasons.
So it's just, you know, grounds for hate, and that's definitely gonna get explored in this series, I bet you.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, Robert is talking all about how he's gonna kill every last Lannister he can get his hands on.
Targaryen.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Robert's talking about how he's gonna kill every Targaryen he can get his hands on.
Yes.
Only if it were the Lannisters. But Ned's like, you know, she's with the Dothraki, who are afraid of the sea and have no ships. So that's something new we learned about the Dothraki.
Yeah, that kind of puzzled me a little bit. I was like, but then he was like, oh, they can still somehow get ships. Like, ships exist in their world. They don't have them, but where they live, there are ships. And I was just like, wait, what? Ships? I don't get it. I was
so the Dothraki, they, you know, they're horse lords. So they have horses, and, you know, they are land-based warriors, basically. They don't do navy warfare.
Okay.
So, that's why they don't have any ships, and apparently they're also afraid of the water, so...
That's... okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, so this brings up, if they eventually do come back, we'll just, throw them out. Sorry, not come back. If they eventually come over to Westeros, we'll throw them out. And that's when Ned's like, that's why you should pick a Warden of the West. How about that brother Stannis of yours, who, according to Jaime, gives everybody indigestion, but has proven himself a warrior.
According to who gives everyone indigestion?
Jaime, in that Bran chapter, we heard them talking about Stannis, and he was like, Stannis is enough to give anybody indigestion.
Oh, right.
But according to Ned, he's, a proven warrior, so he deserves the Warden of the West position, and he is the king's brother, which would be a good choice. But it seems that Robert has already promised it to another person. You remember who? Yeah, Jaime. And you kind of guessed this, actually.
Yes. I mean, it was the most logical. Like, it just... Well,
at that point,
the killing, everything.
That was, like, the second chapter, and you only knew of Jaime Lannister. You didn't know anybody else existed. But, yes, you did guess it. So, 1 point for that.
But, yeah, that's...
How's Ned concerned, this part?
At this point, I like, this was one of the, like, obviously, like, when you're reading from someone's scope, you have to, like, try and see everyone's scope. But at this point, I was like, Ned, you are right. That is too much power, Yeah, because he's talking about he's like
the Warden of the East, and then Jaime would be the Warden of the West. That would put half the armies of the realm in their control, and they could just, like, if they wanted, they could just take over the kingship and call themselves kings. And then, but Ned doesn't say that. Instead, he says that, eventually Jaime will get his dad's title, and then he'll have 2 titles, which is not good. To which Robert's just like, Tywin Lannister's not dying anytime soon, so I think you're okay.
Which kind of, like, in a lot of places in this, just like Robert, for a king, he kind of sucks at planning for things, not gonna lie. That's my opinion. Like, or he just doesn't like to plan for them, so that's why he sucks at them, because he just doesn't do it. Yeah, he just
kind of, like, delegates everything, but he doesn't delegate it properly. In fact, later, he's like, I'm sick of the secrets and squabbles and matters of state. It's as tedious as counting coppers, which is literally the job of a king.
That's literally your job.
Yeah.
But as we see on many occasions, like, especially in this chapter, I'm not going to say many occasions, we really see his, like, I remember earlier we were like, oh, he just wants to party. That's not what a king should do. But now we really, like, we kind of get that, like, explored a little bit more. Now we're like, yeah, he really doesn't, like, he really didn't want to lead,
Yeah.
But
he said he wanted the girl, but instead the gods gave him the crown or whatever.
Oh, poor you.
Yeah. Oh, and just the king of the 7 kingdoms. Oh, so sad. But anyway, so Ned is, trying to talk Robert out of it, and at this point he's like, I have lived my lies for 14 years and they still haunt me at night, but now I must share them. And his lies being that when he got to King's Landing, Jaime was sitting on the throne. Which I gotta say, I was like, really? That's what's been haunting you for years?
I know. I literally got so confused at that part. Because, I read the, like, oh, he was sitting on the throne. And then I went back and read that part again, and I was like,
yeah,
something doesn't compute here.
Yeah, either Ned places too much importance on that, or he's lived like other, like, that's not what he's talking about.
Yeah, I'd hope that's not what he's talking about, because if that's keeping you up for 14 years.
So what's he talking about if not that?
I don't know. Maybe it's like, that's interesting, because the thing is, it has to be related, because why would he bring it up at this, or, maybe it's like we're not getting his full thought process here. Like, usually, whoever's perspective you're seeing the story through, you get their full thoughts. But maybe it's like he's saying all these things, and like after telling him, like, oh, he was sitting on my throne, he was gonna say something else, and that was part of the haunting. But then because that got shut down, he got defeated, and he was like, okay, there's no point, I'm just gonna shut up.
Yeah, that's
you
possible.
know, like, maybe there's something else he was gonna talk about, because otherwise, I don't know why that's, do you know what I mean? I'm hoping there was something else he was gonna say, and then, like, he got shut down.
Yeah,
maybe we'll find out.
I'm just gonna look up in the book here. It's okay, so he says, you weren't there. I've lived these lies for 14 years. That's what he thinks. And he says, there was no honor in that conquest. And Robert says, the others take your honor. What did any Targaryen ever know of honor? Go down in your crypt and ask Lyanna about the dragon's honor. And then Ned says, you avenged Lyanna at the Trident. And then he remembers her saying, promise me, Ned. And that's when Robert's like, that did not bring her back. The gods gave me, you know, a hollow crown, blah, blah,
okay,
blah,
wait,
blah, blah.
what was the line that Lyanna says to...
She says, promise me, Ned. And we remember from Ned's first chapter that she made him promise to bring her back to Winterfell and bury her there. Remember that?
That's what the promise was. Okay.
Yeah. That's what he was thinking about at that time as well. And that's when he goes into his story about Jaime sitting on the throne. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it is kind of like a broken thought process there. Although, you know, when Robert is really mad about Lyanna, but you know, Ned's just like, oh yeah, you avenged her. It's over. It's cool now.
That was kind of...
Yeah, like, he's her brother. Why isn't he more mad?
But I don't think it's that he's not mad. I think he's just not wanting to, like, I think it's more so he's like, yeah, like, this is something that this is something that we both care about, and that hurts both of us, but as people in power, we can't just work with our emotions and what I want to do. Right. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Like how Robert seems to be doing sometimes, where he's like, I'm gonna kill all of them because
like it was a terrible thing that happened to her, but doesn't mean that we should do terrible things to right this wrong or whatever.
Yeah, because that's not how it's gonna work. So
yeah. Okay. That was his big secret. Jaime was sitting on the throne, keeping it warm, and he jokes about it being like uncomfortable anyway. And then Robert laughs out at that point. He's like, "Yeah, he's right. It is a terrible throne."
Yeah. And I feel like maybe it's one of those things like where I think it's one of those things where like Ned has a hunch, and I'm from what we've seen of the story so far, Ned's hunch is correct. Like, he's right. I think he's right in the points he's making, but the backing he's providing for any of these points, like, you know, like, oh, he was sitting on your throne, which means that subconsciously he wants you to, like, I do understand the, like, okay, maybe, like they put up the, actually, no, even that, like, you know how he was like, oh, well, the banners were the lion, not the stag. And at first I was like, oh my god. But then I was like, well, that's
maybe they didn't have those banners.
Okay. Yeah, maybe they didn't have those banners, which is kind of a weird, I guess. But, like, B, it's like, that's not, like they did it. You know what I mean? Like, I understand so they're claiming putting up victory, their banners. Yeah, that doesn't mean
but
that they
that means they're claiming the city for themselves as opposed to for Robert. You know, that's like very symbolic to Ned. He cares about these things, clearly.
Ned's entire thing is honor duty. Isn't that their, like...
No, winter is coming.
Whose is honor?
It's family duty honor is the Tully words. Catelyn's.
That's Tully's, which is very interesting to me, because Ned really seems to embody that more than winter is coming. I don't really understand how.
Are you kidding me? Ned is like the cold, like the frozenest. No, wait, sorry, frozenest is no word. He's the most frozen human being.
That's true, but I don't know. I guess I feel like he does them equally, which is good. He's like combining the two houses, like as he's supposed to do. So I guess that's good.
Yeah, but he should have this. I don't know if you remember, but Arya and Jon were joking about how she should wear a sigil with a wolf with a fish in its mouth to like have both of the sigils. That's what Stark should change his sigil to.
Yes.
Okay, so anyway, Robert dismisses all this because he don't care. And
he don't worry about it.
Ned's basically like, Robert would do as he pleases, as he always had, and nothing Ned could say or do could change that. And knowing what I know, that could not be truer, honestly. So,
interesting.
Yeah, he's just like, oh, I wish I was back home, but, you know, there's nothing I can do about it, so I gotta suck it up.
Yeah, and which is kind of like, oh, yeah. That was interesting. That was an interesting chapter. I was definitely a lot more interested than, like, a couple chapters ago. I remember, I forget which one it was, but I was like, Nav, I'm so bored in this chapter. There was one that was like a couple that was very boring. This one, even though it was just a conversation, it was pretty interesting because we found out so much about the past. So I was like, oh. So this chapter was pretty interesting.
Okay. Yeah, we talked for half an hour about it, so I better hope so.
Okay, but we've talked about, like, nothing for 40 minutes before, so that doesn't prove interesting.
Yeah, but we're not always recording when we talk about nothing for 40 minutes.
That's fair.
But yeah, it's, yeah. Okay. What are your predictions? So, okay, first off, you last time predicted that they wouldn't have left.
Well, no, I said
Winterfell. Now they're on the journey down to King's Landing.
That's not what I said. I predicted that they were either going to be on the journey or they were going to already be there. That's what I said. Oh,
that's right. I totally forgot. Oh my god, look at you remembering things. You're right. So you were actually right. I was wrong. Yeah. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So yeah, they're down on the journey. Do you think next time we catch up with them, they're going to be in King's Landing? Do you think anything else is going to happen on this journey?
I think this is kind of like when I predicted, oh, they could be on the journey, like in the journey. This is kind of what I'd predicted. I was kind of like, oh, we're going to have like a chapter of them like on the journey, just kind of providing more exposition, and then we're going to get to some action like in King's Landing or something, or like wherever they're going, you know? So I feel like maybe now we're finally going to get somewhere, but then again, this book has a million chapters, so maybe we'll have another chapter of like, you know what it'll be? It's either going to be a chapter where we move away from them, like it'll be like Jon or Daenerys or someone, or it'll be them having reached their location. That's what
okay, so it could be that, but also when we come back to, like, there's a couple people, so Arya also has chapters.
Yeah.
And she's with Ned. So when we come back to them, I don't mean exactly like next chapter, it has to be whenever we come back to them. You think they're going to be in King's Landing?
Yes.
Okay. And let's see. Is Robert ever going to listen to Ned? I think I already gave you the answer to that.
No. No.
Is that going to cause problems, or is that just going to be like an annoying thing?
That's already caused problems, man.
Right. Why do you think Ned doesn't want to talk about Jon's mom? Why does he despise such conversation so much? And it seems like he's told, like, Robert knows Jon's mom's name.
Yeah.
Even Catelyn didn't know that. Remember? She tried, like, figuring it out and asking him, and he, like, totally shut her down.
Well, it's because before he became the king, they were, like, you know, they were the boys back in the day, you know? So, like, I don't know, that didn't really stick out as weird to me, because I was like, yeah, like, they're the bros, but she's, like, he's not the one that, because obviously now he's the king's hand, so he's, like, betraying him, or, sorry, if he were to do something wrong, it would be, well, I guess even if you're a servant, you're still betraying, but no, what I'm saying is, okay, him sleeping with a woman, is when he's already, like, pledged his allegiance to, I was supposed to say married Liza, not
Catelyn.
Liza.
He was married to Catelyn.
Oh, they were married. Oh, yeah. Interesting. Right, he was married.
He says he was married and she was pregnant.
Right. Oh, right, because you have to be married to have a kid in this world, or else they're bastards. I forgot about that. I forgot about that slight little detail.
Yeah.
Right. So they were married, because all I remembered, I was like, oh, they were about to have a kid. But like at that point, wait, why was I bringing that up? What was my point?
At that point, he doesn't want. Why? What I had asked was why doesn't he want?
Because at that point, he's betraying her directly. He's betraying their entire relationship and what it stands for. He's not really betraying Rob,
even at that time, he told Robert, but he didn't tell Catelyn ever.
Because she's the one that he's betraying.
She's the one he's betraying.
Okay. About
Whereas Robert is, he sleeps around, so it's like not a big deal to him. Okay, I guess. Yeah. All right. Okay. I didn't mean it to get so complicated. Do you think that Ned will take the hedgehog as his sigil?
No, I don't think so. Unfortunately.
That would be kind of great. Okay, so what else? What did you think of the Master Whisperers? The fact that he was once loyal to King Aerys, but now
I
was
like,
Robert.
that's sus. That is sus. I don't know.
You wanna say the full word?
That's suspicious.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't trust him, but he's giving us some good information for now. So for now, we're like, okay, cool. But I feel like if someone's literally employed as like, well, not gossiper, but like if someone's literally employed to figure out how, like if someone knows like everyone's secrets, that they probably shouldn't be your central like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, it's like if someone always gossips. If you want to gossip with them, but don't tell them your secrets, because then what do you think they're going to go out and do?
So this Varys, he knows everybody's secrets, including Ned's and Robert's and, the people he's working for.
I don't think that the people he's working for should trust him, because he's already proven that, like, do you know what I mean? He's proven that he doesn't have any allegiances, so.
Okay. All right. So, his information that Daenerys has married Khal Drogo. And, Robert's all about killing her, and Ned admits that there's very little he can do about it. So do you think he's going to try to kill her?
Maybe. I want to say not right now, but then I'm like, he has no reason to not try to kill her. Do you know what I mean? Like, from this chapter, we find out he wants to kill her. So why wouldn't he try? So I guess he's gonna try, but it's definitely not gonna work because she's a main character. I don't think she's... Well, it might work like later on in the series, but I don't think that next chapter we're gonna find her dead,
Right, okay. All right. What else? So, okay, we never really got to the bottom of this, but so, we were talking about Ned living his lies for 14 years. And how it's kind of silly that it's the fact that Jaime was sitting on the Iron Throne. Like, big deal. So if it's not that, what could it be?
Yeah, living on a throne of lies. I
don't think he said throne of lies. He just said lies for 14 years.
Right, sorry. Throne of lies. Maybe, maybe it's like, I don't know, I was thinking about this. Maybe, because obviously in this case, the lies are someone else's, so maybe it's like...
No, he says he had lived his lies for 14 years.
So his lies, okay. So I was thinking about that, I was like, maybe... Okay, wait, let me formulate my thoughts before I try to speak.
Like, he lied about something for 14 years, and he still has to keep up that lie. Like, that's what it means.
Yes, but that's what I'm trying to think. I'm like, what's the lie? His thing is like duty, honor, uphold structure, uphold all of these things. So maybe it's like something where he really didn't, like, maybe during the battle he did something that he was like, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have let like my emotions get in the way or something. Like, I don't know. Like maybe just like someone that he killed or something that he regrets.
So he did something that was not honorable.
Yeah.
And it still haunts him to this day. Okay.
Yes.
That makes sense. That's the kind of dude that Ned is, honestly.
Yes.
Okay, I guess that's all I have for predictions to ask about. Do you have anything else to add before we wrap this up?
Let me just see my little trusty book here. There was a line that I liked. What? Where Robert's like, the gods mock the prayers of kings and cowherds alike, and I was like, you're not wrong. Yeah. You're not wrong. But that's pretty much it.
That's actually, I have a question about that. So this is a fantasy universe. Like, there's others and zombies and stuff, right?
Yes.
So are gods real in this universe? I'm not going to ask you about in our universe because I don't want to even tackle that. But in this universe, the gods they talk about, do you think they're real?
Oh, that's interesting. I'd never thought of that. See, because it's like fantasy, but it I don't know, so far, most of the time, in my mind, it kind of, like, mimics, like,
medieval
a reality.
times, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I haven't thought about that. For now, just so I don't blow my own brains out, I'm gonna say no. It's kind of just like, they're like, oh, there's gods, you know?
Okay, all right. All right.
Next chapter?
Yes, next chapter.
Okay, guys.
You're so excited.
Tyrion.
Who's that? No, I'm just kidding. I won't. I make the same joke every time, and it's just terrible every time. Okay, so Tyrion, do you remember where we left him last time?
Oh, he was having, the last line said to him is Jaime was like, I don't even know where your loyalties lie, man. And he's like, I'm hurt. Don't you know I love our family?
What was his plan going from there? Do you remember?
Yeah, I honestly don't remember.
Okay, well, he was planning on going to the wall to take a piss off the edge of the world.
Yes.
And we know that John left with his uncle for the wall from Winterfell. So do you think Tyrion went along with them? Or is he with the king's party?
That's interesting. Well, they would. I don't know why I just adopted an alternate way.
Okay, just go.
I don't know why yawning made me do that, but I think he's okay. So, it wouldn't have been mentioned if it wasn't, going to happen at some point. So I'm assuming he went with them.
So are we going to be at the wall with him? Are we going to be there, like, on the way? Or are we going to catch up with him, doing his business on the top of the wall?
The world had never looked so... No, I think we're gonna, not be at, like, okay, the wall's, like, a wall, right? Yeah. So I think, like, we're gonna be, like, at the wall, but we're not gonna be, like, at the wall. I think we'll be like,
what do you mean?
I think we'll be like, okay, the wall is just not a wall, like there's people there, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
there's like a base there. I feel like we're gonna be at the base instead of like on the wall,
right? But the base is like right next to the wall.
Yes, so we're gonna be at the base
instead
of like climbing on the wall.
Okay, I mean. Why would they? Okay, anyway,
like, I don't know, Bran likes to climb walls, maybe other people do.
I don't think this is a wall you can do you remember what this wall is made of?
I don't.
Well, we talked
ice,
about how
ice and snow, right?
Well, yeah, we don't know exactly, but we talked about how if it's a hot day it weeps, and it could only weep if it was made of some substance that would melt.
I see.
So yeah, anyway, so that's where we're at with Tyrion. I'm not gonna play the game today because look at what time we're at, and try to remember what I said about when we should be finishing this.
Oops.
Okay, so I'll just remind everybody where to find us. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Pop Culture Symposium, on Twitter at Pop Symposium. Our website / blog is popculturesymposium.tumblr.com. Our email is popculturesymposium@gmail.com. All of these links are in the show notes. Until next time, farewell, my friends.
Talk to you later.